Well, President Trump is calling for an end to the Iranian regime. The United States aircraft carrier and other military assets are on their way to the region.
The government's bloody crackdown has quieted the massive protests that filled the streets in recent weeks. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
Trump told the online news publication Politico it's time to look for new leadership in Iran and said Ayatollah Khamenei is a sick man who should stop killing people. His comments came after Iran's supreme leader accused Trump of slander and blamed him for the deadly violence inside Iran. The war of words comes as the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Task Force is just days away from the Middle East. It's part of a military buildup in the region, including F-15s and anti-missile batteries. The White House says all options are still on the table, and the military assets give Trump a number of military options if he decides to strike Iran. Despite a new internet blackout, horrific reports continue to come out of the regime crushing the protests, including using snipers and chemical weapons against protesters and Revolutionary Guard soldiers executing the injured in hospitals. Sources inside the country say the regime has killed tens of thousands of its own people, and that for now the brutal response and large number of security forces on the streets has quieted the large-scale demonstrations. Over the weekend, hackers took over Iranian TV and broadcast the message from exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who some see as a transitional leader if the regime falls. At a Washington, D.C. press conference, Pahlavi said the Islamic regime is close to collapse.
Ali Khamenei and his thugs know this. That's why they are lashing out like a wounded animal, desperate to cling to power. The people have not retreated.
Pahlavi also says he trusts President Trump, but whether or not the U.S. steps in, the protests must continue.
We as Iranians have no choice to carry on the fight. We're halfway across the river. There's no turning back. We will continue.
This weekend, the Trump administration stirred backlash from the Netanyahu government when it released the members of the Gaza Executive Board, the body charged with rebuilding Gaza, which includes demilitarizing Hamas, lists representatives of Turkey and Qatar. Israel objects to both Turkey and Qatar for their ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and support of Hamas, and is requesting a meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio over the matter. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
For Gaza to have a future, they have to be free from the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. And when you look at Hamas and who has supported Hamas over the years, and particularly after October 7th, well, you have to look at Qatar. You also have to look at Turkey. And having them be in some way in charge over Gaza, some voice in the politics and government of Gaza, yeah, I agree with Israel. No way. There's an ideology of hatred. Let's pray for the Iranian people that they may finally be free of this horrible government. They've suspended elections. It's just incredible what they've done. They have an iron hold. And I've heard again and again and again, it's the government that has this militant Islam. The people of Iran do not, and they want to be free. Well, in other news, President Trump and European leaders are on a collision course over his efforts to control Greenland. John Jessup has that story and more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. 8 European nations, including France, Germany, Britain, and Denmark, which controls Greenland, held an emergency session Monday. The meeting came after President Trump threatened 10% tariffs beginning February 1st on nations he says are interfering with his efforts to acquire Greenland. The Europeans are considering retaliatory tariffs totaling $107 billion on American goods, or responding with a so-called trade bazooka, imposing limits on U.S. businesses in Europe. The president says the North Atlantic island is needed for national security purposes and has not ruled out using military force. Several NATO nations have sent a small contingent of troops to Greenland. Well, anti-ICE demonstrators disrupted a Minneapolis church service on Sunday. They entered the sanctuary of City's Church, a Southern Baptist congregation, and began chanting just as the service began. Protesters claim that a church leader is also an ICE official in the St. Paul field office. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon posted the incident is under investigation for potential violations of the Federal FACE Act, including, quote, desecrating the house of worship and interfering with Christian worshipers. Gordon?
Well, this is definitely crossing a line where you come in with an ICE protest to a Baptist church and begin chanting and disrupting the service. It also shows there's obvious coordination on these protests, and they're designed to be a stunt. They're designed to be a publicity event. And that coordination, who are members of ICE, let's start targeting them and targeting them with these protests. We've seen it from the left before, all the way back to Proposition 8 in California. Anyone who contributed money to that was then blacklisted, and you couldn't get a job anymore in Hollywood. You couldn't get a job anymore in Silicon Valley. All kinds of blowback happened because you wanted to stand for traditional marriage. Well, now we're seeing with ICE, and it just justifies why they're wearing these masks and trying to keep their identities secret. If your own civilian population is then going to target you for retribution, well, what else are you supposed to do? We're a nation of laws, and in that nation of laws, there are laws against illegal immigration. That's why we call it illegal immigration. And in enforcing those laws, we can't expect the illegal immigrant to willingly say, well, I'll just pack up and leave, and sorry that I broke the law. We've deported over 500,000 people in just a few months, 12 months. And it's now into stages where, am I uncomfortable with some of the tactics of ICE? Yes. Did ICE invade a church service in North Carolina? Yes. But I don't like it when the protest movement says we're going to do the same thing, and we're now going to target individuals whose employment is with the federal government and with ICE. That's not a culture that we need to in any way encourage. That shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening right here in the United States. If you want to see people helped right here at home in the United States, if you want to see them helped around the world, join the 700 Club. A portion of every gift goes into the work of Operation Blessing. Another portion goes into the work of CBN International to preach the gospel around the world. You're a part of all of it when you join with us. That's $20 a month, 65 cents a day. Some can join at higher levels. We have them. 700 Club Gold at $40 a month. 1,000 Club, that's $1,000 a year. That breaks out to $84 a month, and 2,500 is $2,500 a year. You can change lives. It's amazing what happens when we all get together and say, yes, let's make a difference.